us reason together, says the Lord. Hello. We're back live.
Yeah, live. Yep, alive and live.
I think we're
Filled
live.
up with Sukkot.
Yeah. Are you live?
Yes, I am live. Let me lean back.
That's what Sukkot's all about, is coming back live.
That's right.
Back.
Hallelujah.
So, all right, great. Well, here we are, and I have been. It's been brought to my attention. Let's put it this way.
It was David.
By two completely different people that watch the show all the time. That I haven't been reading the intro deal to our show for the past couple of 2 or 3 episodes. I've just been jumping right into Romans, and so apparently I need to rectify that issue. And so here we are. We're on this show. And this show is Let Us Reason Together. We're the Friday edition, and it's based on Isaiah 1:18. Come now and let us reason together, says the Lord. Though your sins are as scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool. So what we have is a vehemently professed former Christian. That would be me. And a Jew with a messianic vision, and that would be that gentleman there. And we have a former Catholic, and these 3 gentlemen go on a talk show together. What do they talk about? So
Stuff.
Have been talking about the book of Romans and scattered chapters. What didn't we start like in Romans 11 or 10 or something?
Wait a minute. We're in Matthew, man.
What did I say?
You said Romans.
I did?
Yeah.
We're in Matthew. Well, we started off in Romans.
And we roamed over to Matthew.
That's what it was. That's the word I was looking for. We roamed over to from Rome to Matt. And here we are. And we've been discussing Matthew chapter 6 for a while. We did Matthew 5 for a while. And jumped over to 6 because they just kind of flow together.
Yep.
Had we lived, say, 1,000 or so years ago, we had access to the parchment of this. I'm sure they weren't on parchments. If we had access to these words, it probably wouldn't have been divided up into specific verses and chapters and stuff, and we'd have just read all the way through it. So as one discourse. Well, I don't know either, man. I'm making it up as I go along. There, Larry.
It'd be in Latin.
It'd be in Latin. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And nobody would be able to read it because nobody knows Latin.
Oh, you never know. You never know. So anyway, we finished off chapter 6 last time. I'm pretty sure. The way I have it written here is the last 2 verses of chapter 6. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Today has enough trouble already. And David read that off because I can remember him reading Torah and letting us know that it was trouble, because David knows all about trouble. And so he, the rebel of the 3 of us, you just never know.
He's the youngest, that's why.
That's
what it is.
Yeah. By the way, I just turned 71, not to
Oh, that's
what? Mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you. And an interesting thing is, I was actually born on Shemini Atzeret.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got two birthdays. I got my Hebrew birthday and I got my Greggy birthday too.
Oh,
Wow.
mucho goodo.
Yeah.
So your parsha, if you were bar mitzvah, your Torah parsha would be near the end of Deuteronomy, either the end of Deuteronomy or possibly a Sukkot. No, it would be.
Bereshit.
What's that?
I think it'd be Bereshit.
Oh, you're right. It is Bereshit. You're absolutely right. I preached on it last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very good.
But anyway,
Yeah, we for so many years, we did Sukkot, and the end of Sukkot is where you start the first Torah portion, Bereshit, and we were also involved in Sukkot and had to stay after everybody left to clean up the campgrounds and re-put everything back the way it was and haul things off. And I rarely went to a service where they taught Bereshit. Just simply because for years and years, I just didn't have a service right after Sukkot. So, because we were so busy. So, it's very noticeable to me because it's the one Torah portion I've probably heard the least amount of teachers on, besides my own study. So, there you go. All right. Okay. Well, I have a couple of different things here, and I'm sure you guys do. Matter of fact, for some reason, I remember us talking about being judged at the end of our last show. And I said, well, we can't get right into chapter 7 yet. And so here we are with chapter 7. And it starts off, I'll start it off. Don't judge so that you won't be judged. All right. Well, that was a good show. So I don't know how you can expand on that too much. Wait, hold up. There's another verse. Oh, for the way you judge others is how you will be judged. The measure with which you measure out will be used to measure you. Do you guys, does that spark another verse in the Brit Hadashah that is quoted a little more often than this? Does that spark anything to you guys? When I was in a in Christian church down in Texas, I had a pastor that was just an evangelist to the max, and he and I ended up doing evangelical tours and stuff. And when he was my pastor in the church, every time we did an offering, the whole church had to recite and memorize Luke 6:38. Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure you meet withal, it shall be measured unto you again.
oh,
Once again, I had that memorized so much, and it's still in my brain constantly that I repeat that quite often. But when I read something like what this read, that just jumps me right back to Luke 6:38. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Which is, to me, the ultimate of our entire life. That is Torah to me, is, what we learn and what we do and how we relate to the Lord is the give unto others as you would, have them given to you, I guess, type of thing. So anyway.
I can see the relationship. Yeah. So you judge others the way, make sure that you're judging the way that you want to be judged. Make sure that you give the way you would like to be given. And well, that's the second commandment, isn't it? The second greatest commandment: do unto others as you would like them to do unto you.
Yeah. Larry, what Larry just said is very important, because the passage is not saying that there shouldn't be judges in a community. God ordains judges. Societies need judges, but you don't want to judge. I mean, it's implicit that what you don't want to do is judge hypocritically or unrighteously, because that will be done unto you.
Mm-hmm.
And then what follows, of course, is an explanation of what is implicit. Because if a person is following Torah and they are, they are lovingly following the word of the Lord, and I know a few people that do that. I don't know every facet of their lives, and nobody's perfect. But, when it comes to judging, I do know that people are, I know some people that are very wise in that regard, in their behavior. And they withhold judgment until they know facts. They look for a second witness if something comes up. And they balance justice and mercy in good amounts. So I do know some people like that, and those are the people that don't, that do Torah, that love the word of the Lord and look at it as a guiding light. Those are the ones that are more likely to be the ones whom God says are the good judges to pick out. People without bias, without hypocrisy, who don't take bribes, who don't favor the rich or the poor. And the Lord spells it out, and Yeshua is just really driving it home here. And really, I think the point is made probably because there are some Pharisees among the crowd and maybe some Sadducees that are looking for something to take Yeshua down by what he says. Mm-hmm. So he knows that they're there listening to him, and he will even be criticized for what he's saying, but he's taking it to a deeper level, not to do it hypocritically or not to do it with ordinances that go so far beyond the Lord that the Lord is saying, like, that's, you added that one to the Torah,
Yeah. I think we need to clarify, because you used the term justice and mercy. Yeah. Justice is what you actually deserve for what you did, and mercy is not getting what you deserve. And many times we just throw those two together, justice and mercy. But I think a Torah keeper needs to make sure they know the distinction. The Lord is just and he's merciful. Yes. And only he gets to decide which ones he's going to apply to you.
Yeah. I think to me, I guess because of the way I was raised, we get however we're going to be when we do judge people from the way we were raised. I mean, if you had parents that were very judgmental and griped and complained all the time, and that would be what you'd learn. People that gripe and complain all the time are people that don't search out the whole thing and find out all the different ways, the perspectives, or what happened or what really happened or anything. They just hear about a story and immediately make a decision right there what happened. I think one of my big deals these days that is extremely noticeable to me is how the reporters on the media today, they talk about somebody that they don't approve of, and they say this person did this and this is what their this is what they're wanting to do. This this person, is doing this, and this is going to be the result of what they're doing. And it's a preconceived idea that they already have against this person. And when they report that, that comes out as that's what that person's doing. That's what that person's thinking. This is the result, and it's all future. They don't know this person. They don't know the actual reason behind what this person, is doing that for. And it's like every single day that I watch any reporters anywhere, and I'm not, I'm biased towards some and not the others, but all of them do it. Every one of them do it. And it to me goes into the misleading, the misinformation, because people hear what they say and they don't search it all out either. And we just live in a time, especially with communication being as huge as it is, massive as communication is with social media and television and newscasts and stuff. It's just gotten out of control. To me, it's just out of control in every area of it. And it flows over unto the viewer. The viewer starts being that way. And it's the same thing, like I was talking with our parents. If our parents are a certain way, especially in being very judgmental, then I remember growing up, my dad was very quiet, hardly ever entered into a conversation, but you knew when he did speak, you knew what he was thinking, what he was saying, and his opinion on something. But my mother she'd hear one thing and she'd go off on everything, not knowing anything about the situation, especially if it was somebody she didn't like. And I remember this growing up so much that's the influence that I had growing up. And so sometimes I'm balanced and sometimes I'm judgmental. So, a lot into that. For sure.
I had one of each parent. I had one who was judgmental and one who was kind and quiet and measured and loved the Lord. And it's amazing that the two of them, I always wondered that the two of them could love each other, but they did. And my dad was also very forgiving. My mom, for all her judgmentalism, didn't really hold grudges. She said it, she got it out, didn't even remember that she had said it, or didn't. Well, it's what it was. But and I found that I have a little bit of both depending on situations, as most people do. And I thank God that God gave me a wife that pointed out, like, wow, that's kind of judgmental. And I hadn't realized that I was picking up my mom's way of doing things. And so I've been working. I've always been told by other people that that I'm kind and that I'm a good man. When it comes to people in my own family, sometimes I'm a little bit more like my mom. So that's what I've asked the Lord to really help me to work on, is the people who are closest to me, withholding that judgment and just keeping it to myself if I've got it, and giving it to the Lord, because I see it. And I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
Critical and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. All due respect to my mother, I just have to give this example. I just have to, because it's funny and not funny. But one time when we were in church, the First Baptist Church, and we were sitting in a pew, my mom and dad and me and my brother and sister, and we're all sitting there in the pews in church, and this big family, I mean, they were large people, came into the pew in front of us and sit down in front of us. So it's like, you kind of have to look around the people to see the pastor and all that. And my mother, I was sitting next to my mother, and her hand goes up and a finger pops up behind these people. And it's like, my mother, but that's who my mother, and my dad just sitting over there just shaking his head and smiling. It's like, that's your mom.
I didn't even know that they had the bird in those days.
Are you? Oh, come on.
No,
I grew up with the bird.
I thought it was a product of the hippie movement.
I grew
of
up
the 60s.
with the bird. You bet. No, it was
Grew up with the bird.
I grew up with the bird, dude.
Bird.
But that's what I remember. That was who my mother was. And it's funny because my dad raised my brother and sister, but my mom raised me. And I'm a whole lot more like my mom than I'm like my dad. So anyway, but I never give the bird to anybody. Never. No. You're supposed to laugh at that. You're supposed to laugh at that.
You don't drive much, do you?
Oh, whatever. I like to tell stories, though. All right, moving on.
The point is that we are influenced by our surroundings.
That's right, big time.
Yeah. And
big time. Especially judgmental things, I think.
Yeah, and the job of the Ruach HaKodesh is to point that out to us. And one of the places where it's pointed out to me a lot is when I go to Sukkot, and you're mixed with other people.
That's right.
From different backgrounds who listen to different kind of music, and it's like, well, why don't they play more Hebraic music?
Yeah.
And I was sitting in our trailer, and I was playing Celtic songs. And it's like, wait a minute, this isn't Hebraic.
Yeah.
Why am I judging them when I'm listening to different music too? It's like, it's more and more the Ruach is helping me not to be judgmental, because basically I come from the same background as you two.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah,
we all did. I'm with you. That's good. All right. I see that 3, 4, and 5 kind of go together. Who wants to read those?
Why do you see the splinter in your brother's eye, but not notice the log in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the splinter out of your eye, when you have the log in your own eye? And 5 says, you hypocrite. Bam. And we know that the word hypocrite comes from the Greek for actor. So you're just acting righteous, when the last verse of Matthew 6 says you should seek after the righteousness of God rather than your own righteousness. So you hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly, so that you can remove the splinter from your brother's eye. That's deep.
It is. There's even, what God is saying is don't not mention the splinter in your brother's eye.
Right.
But it means first come clean with the Lord about the log in your eye. And, and so when you do, you're going to be more sympathetic and more kind and gentle and loving when you do point out the splinter in your brother's eye.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever, it's like there's so many ways to tell somebody that they're being judgmental, or that they're that they're going against Torah in some way. There's so many ways to do it, and it's never a bad thing to do it in love. And doing it in love means there's also timing involved, and place, and audience, and there's even relationship involved. If you don't really know somebody, if a visitor comes in to the congregation and you don't know them, and they're outside smoking, which you'll sometimes find at church. People go outside to smoke. This happened once at a congregation I was at, and someone who was a longtime member went out and lectured them about the evils of smoking. And the man said to her, like, "Lady, you don't know my story. You don't know what I used to be hooked on, and that I'm looking forward to quitting these, but right now that's not the time for me." And like, it's just, we have to know people. We have to have relationship with people in order to be able to tell them that there's a splinter in their eye. Because if they know us and they know we're coming at them with love all the time, they're not going to take it as hard as if we say it to a complete stranger, which usually will just get them angry.
My first response is that what this woman saw was a public visual issue that this man has. He has an addiction to his cigarettes, and you can see that publicly because he has to smoke it outside, and anybody that walked by could see it. But the deal goes to, what is this woman's addiction? What does she have that's hidden that is probably just as bad as the guy's addiction to cigarettes? Because we all have our addictions to things. We all have our little things that offset us a little bit. And so it's like this woman that comes up, had the man known her vices, he could have come back and said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." What about your own vice? So that's the way I see it, is that people that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love the contrast that Yeshua uses: a log and a splinter.
Yeah.
So you got so much baggage on you,
Right.
and yet you're pointing one finger
Right.
at him, and three fingers are pointing back at you.
Uh-huh.
I remember we've been going to Sukkot. We were trying to figure out when we started going to Sukkot, and it's been over a decade. And I remember the first couple of Sukkots that we went to, there were Torah police running rampant through the camp, pointing out everything that you're doing wrong. Like we cooked some turkey bacon, and doggone if it didn't smell just like regular bacon. Well, they were knocking at the door saying,
"You gotta be joking."
No, it's like, this is a kosher camp. It's like, yeah, and so there are a lot of people in this walk that we have that need to hear Yeshua saying that.
Wow. And why is it always people like that don't know how to talk to somebody about something they may not know anything about?
Yeah.
I mean, if those people didn't know you and you didn't know them, first of all, if I'd come up and say, "Oh man, that smells good," it's like, man, this is going everywhere. Everybody, man, now that is turkey bacon, right? It's like, there's a way to present to somebody like that, but most of them just come up and say, "This is a kosher camp. You can't be eating bacon and pig in this camp." And that's the way people just start off the conversation.
It's weird. It's a turnoff. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And everybody's experienced it. Those kind of people are everywhere. literally.
You guys
Probably
think
not
that-
David's congregation. He probably didn't have anybody like that.
well, my wife and I are the leaders, and we know how to speak kindly to people, and people like to kind of take after us in that regard. We have an oneg Shabbat, a potluck lunch every Shabbat after the service, and it's a really good lunch. People really go out of their way to bring stuff. And one lady who was a visitor did not know what clean foods were.
Always.
It was like her second time. And she spent this time lovingly making this crab dip, and it did smell really good. But nobody was eating it. Nobody was eating it. And she said, "How come nobody's eating my crab dip?" And I said, and I whispered this, so I didn't want to say it loud enough that others would hear. I said, "Well, we only eat Torah clean foods here in the congregation." And she was really apologetic. She was just beside herself.
Yeah.
I said, "Don't worry about it. You didn't know.
That's
It's
right.
no fault of your own. You didn't know. Just, if you want to save it for when you get home, you may want to cover it now so it's still good when you get home."
There you go.
I told her, like,
There you go.
yeah, don't hassle over it.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys think I taught psychology in the public schools for 25 years, and I just remember Freud's defense mechanisms, and I'm thinking this is one of those classic defense mechanisms that sometimes people will point out everybody else's fault just to deflect and cover up their own faults.
Yeah.
And I'm more and more convinced that everything Freud pointed out that was like, yeah, he's got that one on the money, it came right out of the Torah. I think when most people have theories that are really good theories, they always are originate in Torah. The people just don't know it.
How many preachers have you come across that preach at you about things that they've been doing wrong? I've come across quite a few people that
The things that they do wrong,
that they preach to the congregation about things that they're worried about in their life.
Oh, yeah, a lot. Quite a lot.
Yeah.
But my wife told me, she once pulled me aside afterwards. She says, it's okay to talk about some things you struggle with, but you don't always have to be really so detailed. Because there's some things is like, just let the people know you might struggle with something. You don't always have to say what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyway, that was good advice.
Yeah, don't be putting it on the congregation like they're all doing the same thing that you're doing.
Or don't advertise it like, well, if he did it, then I can do it.
Yeah.
But you need to get it off your chest, just not to everybody.
Yeah, that's the congregation.
Another way to look at it. So yeah, I'm with you. All right. I love it. It's really, really good here. Yeah, I like the idea that he used splinter and log. Everybody knows, what that's talking about, and the distance between a splinter being so small. Say even your vices are very small, and you're seeing somebody whose vice is very big. There's no weight to it. It's a vice is a vice.
Yeah.
Then that's another thing I think is that people put sin in levels. In other words, this sin is so bad, but my sin is really not that big a deal.
It's a little white lie.
Yeah, a little white lie. Yeah. Yep.
And then you've got the people that when you lovingly go and point something out, who are you to judge me? Scripture says, do not judge. It's like, okay, I'm backing off when they don't use the whole verse, because the way that you judge, you will be judged also. And to me, they're judging you because you brought up something. It's like,
Yeah.
A reverse judgment. Who are you to judge me? It's like, okay.
We've all been raised so different from each other that we can't put our own lives in front of others. I don't know how to say it any different.
Yeah.
I like it.
And that response tends to make me go back into my shell then.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. All right. Any more on 3, 4, and 5? You hypocrites.
You actors.
I just every time I look up there, my eye goes straight to you hypocrite.
Mhm.
I can't see anything else.
I wonder who he was looking at when he said that. Like David pointed out, there had to be some Sadducees and some Pharisees in the audience.
That's good.
I'm wondering
That's
if
good.
his gaze kind of went over toward the
Oh,
guys with the very long seats on and everything, you know.
We're understanding this whole thing was like at the Sermon on the Mount, right? In other words, he's on a hill somewhere, and there's a big group of people. I picture that if it's kind of in a like a normal type situation where you got the teacher down here and you got all the people, that maybe in the front would be all the scribes and Pharisees and the rabbis and everything, because they're going to take their place down front.
Yeah.
So, when he's talking this, it's kind of like scanning across the front of the rows, the way I see it. Good point, though. I hadn't thought of it like that at all. Wouldn't it be you hypocrites?
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. 6 kind of stands alone, David.
Yeah, 6. I'll read it. Don't give to dogs what is holy, and don't throw your pearls to the pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet, then turn and attack you. So if the attack is the follow-up of somebody who knows Torah, but only to use it as a weapon against others. And I'm wondering if that's what this refers to, is that to teach somebody Torah so that they can use it as judgment against others. And I think the way we teach Torah should not be on, we have to remember, yes, there may be 365 don'ts in the Bible, but there's also 248 do's.
Yeah.
And we don't want to just give all the don'ts, And I think the way we convey the wonder and the beauty and the holiness of Torah, God is very concerned about that. How we give Torah. I'm sure that's the pearls that Yeshua was talking about, is how do you teach somebody Torah, especially if they're a visitor, they're new to Israel, and they don't know anything about, all they know is, I just love you people and how you all live your lives. And I love the fact that you're kind to strangers. And, how do you know, who taught you to be like this? And then that opens up a door for teaching Torah. And so if they get the wrong person teaching them, they're going to have a lot of don'ts, but they may not get a lot of the do's and the freedom within the Torah. There is total freedom within the boundaries of Torah.
Yeah.
And we kind of, sometimes we can forget about that the beauty and the holiness
of
that freedom in Torah.
When I was a young teacher, I went to a seminar with Harry Wong, who told me don't get the wrong Wong. And one of the things that stuck with me throughout my career was, when you post your classroom rules, make it in a positive sense, not a don't do this, don't do that, but tell them how to act.
Right.
And that was a game changer for me. which goes right along with what you're saying. There's a whole bunch of do's that'll make your life a lot more livable if you follow
Yeah,
the trend.
yeah. I think they called those positive expectations, positive behaviors in this classroom. And kids are pretty smart, and they'll get the idea when they see these positives. They're going to know inherently what the opposites of those positives are. It's like you don't really have to post the negatives. You could, I suppose, but you know, but as you post the positives, they'll get it's the opposite of the negatives.
Yeah. So, did either one of you ever do any street evangelism? You know, I mean, not everybody has, but you know, a lot of people, that was their life. That was my life when I first got acclimated to, you know, Christian lifestyle and stuff. And we used to do my pastor was a huge evangelist, major. That was his whole life, and he was my pastor. So we used to go out a lot. We had hot dog suppers for the community and all kinds of things we used to do. But my pastor, before we ever went out, we would all congregate together, and the pastor would talk to us about what you're going to do when you go out there to witness to people and talk to them about leading them to the Lord. And one thing I learned that I thought was the most balanced thing I'd ever learned is to find out what that person believes before you start laying your whole trip on them. I have seen people go up to a random person on the street and lay out the whole gospel story to them, only to find out they don't believe the Bible. They don't believe anything that's got to do with Christianity. You know, they're an atheist and all this kind of stuff. And no matter what story you tell them, they're never going to, you know, back off and enjoy what you're saying. And so I learned that when you talk to somebody, you talk about something and then find out what they believe. And then you can take it from that point and progress with what you have to say to them, and never be negative. Never put any other religions down or preachers down or anything like that. You always stay very positive, but without finding out what they already believe before you get started, without finding that out, you can actually, I'm not going to say waste your time, but for the most part, it's never going to work. And it always worked for me. Always worked. I mean, I was always able to at least spend a little bit of time with the person that I'm talking to. And I think that's a huge issue, because they, especially somebody you've never met, you never go straight into negative things ever. It's, you know, it right away, it puts them in a negative attitude. So
I think that's kind of what the verse is saying. Don't. You have to analyze them first. Are they dogs? Are they pigs?
Yeah, exactly.
If there's no way that you're going to be able to reach them, then, you know, don't waste your time.
Well, or plant a seed. All you can do is like plant and you can't plant negative seeds. You know,
right.
Negative is already there. It's planting positive seeds that makes the difference.
This verse comes to me when I'm busy online trying to defend Torah to people that are just condemning me for even following Torah. There was some girl posted how her freedom on I guess it was Facebook, a nice little thing, and this one guy just starts ripping her up. Wow. And telling her that she's under the law and all this. And I pointed out scripture like Matthew 5:17 and stuff, where Yeshua says the law is not going away and stuff. And he would come back with these out of context scripture passages and stuff like that. And to me, that was the more that I would point out scriptures to the opposite of what he was saying, the more he would come back with this virulent attack on me, saying, well, unless you follow every command, you're condemned by it. And, and it's like, to me, that was the more I would go at it, it was just throwing holiness to the dogs and to the pigs and stuff like. So it was frustrating. And I think Yeshua was pointing that out, check out who you're talking with. If after a couple seconds you find out that you're not going to make any headway, let that person just stew in their own.
Right. Shake off the dust of your feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeshua said this same thing we're talking about many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder who the pigs and the dogs are. Is it harder to preach Torah to someone who has no belief at all, or to preach it to a Christian who maybe thinks that Torah has been done away with, that we're not under the law anymore?
Mm-hmm.
It makes you kind of wonder. I just want to say that when there were opportunities I had in the classroom to speak life, to speak godliness into the lives of kids, and I always did it in private, and there was usually something that something brought that about, like it was maybe usually some bad behavior, and I didn't want to criticize the kids in front of the others. I knew that was always a losing proposition, because then it became more about me embarrassing them than about what they had done. So I would pull them out in the hallway. And I remember saying to a girl who had spiked hair and a leather jacket, and all the boys were afraid of her. she was harsh. She was hard and harsh. And I said, you're really smart. And I said, you've been created for so much more than you're really showing in that classroom. Awesome. And I said, the kids really look up to you, even though they're scared of you. And I said to her, I think God has made you this way, has made you so smart and so influential for much better than what you're showing. And she listened to what I said, because I don't think any teacher had ever said that to her. They just usually read her the riot act. And she said, well, thank you, Mr. Weiss. I don't really have much to do with God right now, but who knows? I think sometimes all we're called to do is to plant a seed.
That's right.
And then the water and the sunlight and the nutrients will come from other people that will cross their paths.
Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've said many times, I think when we do anything evangelical, especially in the United States, all we're doing is planting seeds, because so many people have already heard the gospel, either in a positive or a negative way. And here in America, too many people have heard it in a negative way. And that's the way they see it. They don't want to have anything to do with the organized church or, God or religion, because of all the negative things they've seen. So, yeah. That's it. Too bad, but it's Satan's way. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a little video I want to play.
Oh.
And it goes along with this, and then we'll talk about it here. We got about 10 minutes before the show's done, and this thing lasts for here we go. The only thing is, I don't have sound. I wondered if I had sound on that. So anyway, back to this. I'll bring it up next week. I wondered, because I didn't check it before I played it, and I don't think there's any sound on it. So, but it's about a woman, and I'll play it next week. There's a video of a woman in a grocery store that she wants to search the vitamins in the grocery store, but she wants to do it by herself. So she's yelling at everybody around her to get out in Jesus' name. You all are demons, and I cast you into the lake of fire. Get out of my aisle so I can look by myself. And I mean, she was using Jesus Christ's name all over the place to cast these people out. And it is a very disturbing video of what people, that's how they see things. There's people that literally see that they can use the kingdom of God to get what they want. And you know, it's, how do we judge somebody like that? How do we figure on that? How do you deal with something like that without being judgmental?
You read her 1 Corinthians 13.
Which is,
if you don't have love, you have nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true.
By the way, is it an acting snippet for the video, or do you sense that it's a real event?
It's a real event. It's a video that somebody in the store. I can play it, but without listening to this woman say it, I'm real sure. Let me double check here, but I'm really sure that I recorded it and I wondered if I got the audio to it. But anyway,
maybe it's got an internal volume button that you have to slide when you turn it on.
I don't know. Let me put it back on here and let's see. I can't. Yeah, no, the volume's up. You can see the words down here, but I'll play it next week. Let me re-record it and see, and I'll play it for you next week. I think it fits exactly what we're talking about here. That is so good. And I saw this a while back and I kept thinking, man, I want everybody to see this.
It's, one time I came into our synagogue on a Shabbat morning and someone said, "Hey, Rabbi, are you going to preach fire and brimstone today?" I said, "Have I ever?" They said, "No." And then the person said, "Oh, just kidding. I'm just making conversation." Oh, okay. So I guess they've heard it. Believe me, growing up in the synagogue, you don't really hear a lot of fire and brimstone. What you hear is be kind to others and be just, and that's kind of what you hear in the synagogue.
Yeah. I used to do evangelical tours with a guy that I was talking about before, actually my pastor, and the main thing of what he talked about almost every time. We did this for 3.5 years. I did evangelical tours 7 times.
Wow.
And his main course was get saved, get right today, or go to hell tomorrow. It's
there you go.
That's the whole thing, and boy, he could go in thousands of different directions on that and preach it up. Boy, I was totally turned on by Kim Josephson. That was my life, man.
Oh, you like that preaching?
What's that?
You like that preaching?
Oh yeah, my gosh, that was my life for 6-7 years. That's what.
So when you would give it to others, would you be well received?
No, I can't preach that way.
Oh,
I can hear somebody preach that way and agree with them and say that's right, but I can't preach that way. I don't have See, I went on the tours because we did tent revivals and we had different denominations that sponsored us. So we might do 3 nights for Foursquare Church and 3 nights for the Baptist Church and 3 nights for the Nazarene and all that, which most of them, sponsored us to do tent revivals. But I didn't preach. I was the person that after they had made an altar call and people came down front, then I would take those people to another tent and teach them about the denominational, theories or whatever that denomination had, what they were fixing to get into, and you need to go to this church and all this kind of stuff. That's what I did. My main course of study was Christian denominations. I knew them inside and out. Not so much today, but back then I did. And that's why Kim wanted me to go on the tour with them, is so that I could, kind of acclimate the people into what they just did. Explain to them what they just did when they went down front and said the prayer and all that kind of stuff.
So it was like bad cop, good cop.
Yeah, it kind of was. Yeah, it's nothing like that, but more a bad cop, and then you get the good cop. Yeah, exactly. It was some of the stories I heard from people were amazing. How mostly in the South, and the biggest thing that I remember out of all those years of doing this was how many people said that they didn't need to get saved because they were born into a Christian family, and they were born Christian, and it's kind of like Muslims or any of them, the way that they think. But that's a rough road to talk to people about. Is when they already are set. I don't need to say a prayer. I don't need to do anything. I'm a Christian. I'm going to heaven because my parents were, and I grew up that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that way in the Catholic faith too, Larry? That people
are
baptized and
yeah. You do have opportunity to make a commitment when you're in 8th grade, called confirmation.
Yeah.
Confirming what you've been taught. But I was raised Catholic, therefore, I'm Catholic.
Yeah, one holy church.
That's right, one holy Catholic church. That's it.
That's right.
And then there's Rumspringer in the Amish. Where they grow up in the way, and then they're told for a year or 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Go and sow your oats and decide if you want this to be, if you want the world, or if you want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them come back. Most of them come back, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I do, because that's the only thing they've ever known, and they get shocked when they get out there in the world. And some of that shock is a little bit too influential for some of them. Anyway, all right. Well, sorry, I'll have that video. I want you guys to see that video, and we'll talk about it next week. And but for now, we need to jump over to the Torah portion, and David has prepared something for us that we'll talk about. And oh my gosh, he's got an entire sermon there. All right, well,
we'll fix it for him.
That's okay. I've been up long enough. I don't need to take a nap, so we're good. So.
My way's bad, my way is so bad. Your way's good, your way makes me glad. My way's bad, my way is so bad. Your way's good, your way makes me glad. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah.
Amen, amen. Shabbat shalom if you're watching this on the Shabbat, and Shavua Tov if you're watching the archived version. Hallelujah. I am Rabbi David Weiss of Malchut Chaim Messianic Congregation in Chesapeake, Virginia. And we are in the Parsha of Noach, of the Parsha of Noah and the Ark and the flood. And what's interesting, too, is that although a lot of time passes from the beginning of Noach till the end of Noach, and by the way, it covers chapters 6 to 11 in the book of Genesis, we go from the beginning, we go from Noah and his life and God speaking to him to build an ark, all the way up to the introduction of Abraham. So a lot of time passes, but there's some very significant things that really God speaks about in this that I believe refer to God's original mission to Adam, which of course they messed up, but the original mission from Adam will of course be completed and restored fully in Yeshua. We start off with, I'm just going to read a few verses from Genesis 6, verse 5. Adonai saw that the people on the earth were very wicked, and that all the imaginings of their hearts were always of evil only. Adonai regretted that he had made humankind on the earth, and it grieved his heart. Adonai said, I will wipe out humankind, whom I have created from the whole earth, and not only human beings, but animals, creeping things, and birds in the air, for I regret that I ever made them. But Noah found grace in the sight of Adonai. Now, first of all, some people might wonder, why is God wiping out the animals too? Well, any of us that have had pets, especially if we've adopted pets, know that if we got a rescue, an animal that was abused by a human being, we had a lot of undoing to do that could take weeks or even months before the animal is socialized to trust us and to love us. And so basically mankind ruined even animals there to be afraid of them because of their violence. But Noah found favor. Now, the word for grace, which is chen in the Hebrew, is maybe a little better translated as favor. Noah found favor in the eyes of Adonai. We don't really hear much about Noah's, for lack of a better word, I'll say his spiritual life, his religious life. But why was Noah favored? Now we have to remember that even though Noah never met Adam, Adam lived so long, and so did Adam's descendants live so long, that Noah's own father and grandfather, and that is Lamech, his father, and his grandfather Methuselah, they actually knew Adam in their adult years. And so what Adam knew about the Lord was passed on to Noah's father and grandfather, and that was passed on to Noah. And he was the only man in the whole world, even though all people came from Adam, Noah was the only one in the world at the time who actually clung to the belief and love of the Lord. And he walked clinging to God and loving God and believing in God. So when God finally spoke to him and said, build the ark, he knew it was God's voice, and he believed it, and he did it. Chapter 6 continues. God saw the earth, and yes, it was corrupt, for all living beings had corrupted their ways on earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all living things has come before me, for because of them the earth is filled with violence. I will destroy them along with the earth. I want to concentrate on this word filled. The earth is filled with violence. Now we look at that word filled and we figure it's pervasive. It's being done all the time. But it's actually a very spiritual word in the Hebrew. The word is mal'ah. And mal'ah in other places in the Bible is used to be fulfilled. Fulfilled. It's a very spiritual word because it indicates whether you're going to be fulfilled by the ways of the Lord or whether you're going to be fulfilled by the ways of Satan, of the serpent who came to destroy mankind. People have to choose how their fulfillment is going to be played out. And so God's original mission for Adam and for the earth, it was really to thrive and to be filled. It says in Genesis 1:28, be fruitful and fill the earth and subdue it. And there's that same word fill. Be fruitful and fulfill the earth. It means all of your actions, all of your thoughts are going to be to fulfill my mission for mankind, to bring my word and my holiness to the entire earth and to rule over it, to subdue it. But of course, mankind distorted that image and they all drowned. So at the end, after the flood, we're going to move forward to chapter 9. I'm just going to read one more verse. In chapter 9, after the flood, we know that it took a year for the flood and for the waters to subside. And then when they come out of the ark, Noah builds an altar to the Lord. And it says in chapter 9, verse 1, God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And there's that same word, mil'u. It's like he said it to Adam. Adam didn't fulfill it because of his sin. And unfortunately, a lot more of his progeny picked up on the sin than those who picked up on the holiness. And so God says it again to the only man on earth, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Make sure that the earth is fulfilled. But one thing that God left out for Noah that he said to Adam was subdue it. Subdue it was when Adam was walking in his perfection as a created being who knew no sin. He messed it up. So God knew that from then on, mankind could not adequately subdue the earth. That would be saved for Yeshua, who would be the last man who would be talked about in 1 Corinthians 15. The first Adam became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. But it is not the spiritual that is first, but the natural, and then the spiritual. So I think what we find here is that Noah is given a mission to fulfill the earth up to the point that it's ready to accept the second Adam, if you will, in Yeshua, when he comes to bring ultimate salvation to all the earth. Noah, we know that Noah's going to pass on what he has to his son Shem, and Shem will actually know Abraham. He lived so long that Shem will know Abraham, and Abraham will know Shem for, I believe, 50 years of his life. And in those 50 years, Abram was walking with God as well, before God speaks to him at the age of 75. So we see this large plan. I want to bring in my two friends. I've spoken now for about 8 minutes, maybe 7. And this is such a wonderful story, not only of God's justice to be done on an earth that had turned completely corrupt, but it's a wonderful story about salvation and what God's plan was for the earth. So I just bring you in to ask you what kind of thoughts were going through your mind, what kind of revelations came to you, or associations, connections, hearing this story of Noah and the flood.
As a sideline, when you talked about how the violence of the people affected the animals too, I find it interesting that the next verse in chapter 9 says, the fear and dread of you will be upon every wild animal. And that, to me, that's protecting the animals from what happened to them before the flood, so that they would not have that same thing happen to them after the flood, which I never thought of before. And the Lord was protecting those creatures that he saved in the ark too, so that they could survive without that violence against them that was prevalent before the ark. And to me, that just points out the Lord taking care of everything that he has created.
Yeah, it's good.
Interesting that only one man and his family were saved. To me, that means that everybody in the world had lawlessness. That means everybody but Noah and his family. And it still doesn't even talk about his family being righteous as much as it's just Noah. And this is one of the things that always kind of got me on the way that it's written is that Noah's family got to go. It would, to me, it was they got to go because they were influenced by Noah, whereas every other person on the planet was lawless. I mean, it had to be because they all died, and Noah and his family didn't die. And so, to me, that the word violence stands out constantly in this whole discourse. Well, of course, we know today we're dealing with a whole group of people called Hamas that is violent, and they're the word Hamas means violence. And I mean, I know subject, but I wish every time news would say the word Hamas, they would say violence, so people realize that that's really what you're talking about here. But anyway, back to Noah, it just seems that after a period of time that the lawlessness was so heavy that every person on earth was lawless and experienced violence. And that's hard for us to imagine, even though we're living in a world where there's like 32 different wars going on all over the planet at any given time, and big wars, little wars, all kinds of different things going on. This world is kind of back to the place where it was in Noah's day, is that the entire planet is filled with violence. And I don't, of course, because of communication, we know a whole lot more than what they would have known back then. We know what's going on in every square inch of this planet because of communication, that it would have been only God that would have known in Noah's time what was going on the planet. Noah couldn't possibly have known because he didn't have Fox News back then, and wouldn't have had that covered. He just had to go by what God said, and to literally be influenced by an entity that can see everything going on the planet, but he is the biggest faith of all. To me, I don't think there's ever been more faith than what Noah believed God to be. And had to happen. And it's so funny that today, even though we constantly see God working in our lives every day, that we still, so many of us still don't have that faith that Noah had, even though Noah couldn't see the violence, and maybe locally, he couldn't see it. He trusted God enough to do what he did and make this happen. That's the big issue to me. Besides the fact that God could see that there was violence in every part of the earth and every people that they were. Of course, we know that even though that there's violence throughout this planet, even though we know that not everybody is violent. We know that the people, in general are not violent. It's more the leaders of countries. It's more, the dis I don't, what's the word I want to use, the the difference between the leaders of different countries that constantly disagree with each other, and it leads to war. That's the war. It's not the people. It's the people that get to, or that have to endure through wars. And I wonder sometimes what it was like during Noah's time. I mean, at first I'm saying every person on the earth was violent. Well, were they, or was it just the major different people groups that were warring against each other? Kind of like it is today. Not the people of I don't know what I want to say, the people of Iran. As a matter of fact, if I heard it right, it wasn't very long that they polled the people in Iran, and they don't want the government that they have in Iran. The people want a democratic government in their land, but yet their government is one of the most violent governments there is on this planet. And so when we think of Iran, we think of violence, but it's the leadership of the country that's violent. The people themselves are not that way. So to look back at Noah's day, could it have been the same situation? Yet God annihilated everybody.
I think that's because they were all filled with violence. I think members of family were doing it to each other. I think kids were doing it to each other, and there was no justice or righteousness in anybody. And God knew that if given enough time, that world of violence would have come at Noah and would have destroyed the last good man on earth, and there would have been nobody left that was redeemable. And he had to save the last man. It did say that God, it's interesting that we learned that God has feelings. And it doesn't mean that he has feelings like us. It means that we have feelings like God when we feel the worst and when we feel the best. We're feeling God's feelings. That's his breath of life in us. So God regretted that he had made mankind. And the regretted doesn't mean he says, I made a wrong choice. It's more like he was saddened by it, and it grieved him. It grieved his heart that the just thing was to wipe everybody out. And it's shortly after that chapter 9, verse 1 that I read. It's shortly after that that God makes a new Torah for the world. Whoever sheds a person's blood, his blood shall be shed. And it was basically a law from then on that governments had to be instituted that would be authorized to stop the violence. Even today, our capital punishment, it's not just so that someone is paid back for a crime he committed, but it's so that he can't commit more violence on a person in prison, or if he's let out, on people in society. Violence is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And
very, very good.
when we look at the people that were destroyed, I'm sure there were innocents, but their mortal life was taken from them. I in my heart, I believe that some of them will be in the kingdom out of innocence. And one of the reasons why children are taken like that is because they would be under the influence of their parents, who were nothing but violent people, and it would just be continued. But they're innocent up to that point, and having them taken off the face of the earth, in essence, was saving them from that violence. in the future.
That's a very good point.
Trying to think, what is the word, the expression when an innocent person gets caught up in something, and like, for instance, it's collateral damage.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me wonder is that how many were caught up in collateral damage, but kind of the same thing in what's going to happen. How many people will get caught up in collateral damage in the last days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it has to do with who you're influenced by and who you follow and what you're going to do. And with that, I would assume both of you saw the movie Noah with Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found it fascinating. I really hadn't thought much about the fallen angels, some of the fallen angels wanting to come back to God and being sorry for the choice they had made. I don't know where that came from, but I thought it was interesting that if you wonder, like, well, why hasn't the violence hit Noah? And, that movie portrayed the fallen angels as being Noah's protectors when the violence attempted to come at him.
The Watchers, yeah.
So I did when Donna and I saw the movie and heard, so many different Christian reviews on how much they absolutely hated the movie and it was so screwed up. I went into research on it. Come to find out, the two writers of this movie, the screenplay writers, is Darren Aronofsky and Ari Handel. I'm sorry, what?
Aronofsky.
Are you familiar with them?
Yeah.
So both Jews.
Yeah.
Both with an understanding way beyond Christian understanding on this. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to Talmud and looked up the writings on Noah, and found out that a lot of stuff in this movie is from Talmud. I mean, a lot of the things that you see is speculation, I guess, from Talmud, from that. And so I would assume that the two Jewish writers, knew this, and that's how they wrote the movie, was based on what they knew it to be rather than a Christian point of view. Yeah. So if you watched it from a point of view where you don't study any of those things out and don't know any of the background to the original Jewish writings of Noah, then you're not going to understand the movie at all. I thought it was awesome. I thought it both Don, my wife, and I just love that movie and have watched it several times. Mostly it's negative reviews on it.
Yeah, a lot of the material came from Enoch and from Yasher too.
Yeah,
the background there.
So the guy who plays I think Zerubbabel, Ray Winstone, the real evil guy, he made his way onto the ark.
Yeah,
in the movie.
He clung on.
Is there anything in Talmud that he somehow?
The fact that Satan was not a part of the flood is what I remember reading on that. Of course, it's been years ago now, but that he was not affected by the flood, and so it was assumed that he got out of the flood by being attached to the ark. And that's really all that, if I remember right, that's all I remember from that. It's not that he was an entity, a person. Apparently, it was their thought to make it visual to us by making him an actual person that was inside the ark. It was more that he was attached, or his spirit was attached.
See, I would have liked that better if you saw some serpent-like creature
Yeah.
that was kind of
Yeah.
like looking human
Yeah.
that clung to the ark
Yeah.
and then got
Yeah.
away at the end. I think I would have liked that better than the guy who
Yeah.
got on board to
I
fight
agree.
and ended up dying.
That's right.
That would have been better. One
Yeah.
interesting fact that came out, it said that the flood covered even the tallest peak by 22.5 feet. And I'm thinking, what an interesting detail. And then I realized that the Nephilim, who were the children of the fallen angels and women, they were giants.
Mhm.
And when we get that 22.5 feet, you get an idea for how tall the Nephilim were. The water was just enough to cover them, even if they climbed to the top of Everest. They very well could have been 20 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Cool.
I'm telling you, there's just a lot more that we don't get in our regular stuff. But anyway, I mean, if Torah had everything in it, we'd have volumes upon volumes upon volumes instead of these pages.
Yeah, the same is said in the Gospels about
We got to
all
go.
the things that Yeshua did, that there would not be enough volumes to.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. All right. We got to go. Bye.
Wow, how time passes.
Shabbat Shalom tomorrow.
We'll see you next week. God bless.
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom.
Where am I at here? All right.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell somebody about the Messianic Lamb Network.
Should be white as snow, white as snow, white wool.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
White as snow.